My girlfriend looked me in the eyes on our 2-year anniversary and said love can wait but friendship can't, choosing her friend group over me for the last time. I nodded, walked out, and spent the next week quietly moving my things while she was out with them every single night. When she finally noticed half the apartment was empty, I was already gone, and the look on her face when she read my goodbye letter told me she never actually thought I'd leave. My name is Derek, I'm 28, and I just walked away from a 2-year relationship where I constantly came in 6th place. 6th because my girlfriend Elena and her 4 friends operated as a single unit, a squad they called themselves unironically, complete with matching Halloween costumes and a group chat that never stopped buzzing. At first, I thought it was endearing that she had close friends. 6 months into living together, I realized I wasn't dating a person, I was dating a committee. The breaking point happened 3 weeks ago on what should have been a special night. Our 2-year anniversary was approaching and I'd planned everything carefully. Made reservations at the restaurant where we had our first real date, the one with the outdoor patio and string lights she'd loved. Got tickets to see the indie band she'd been obsessing over for months. 3rd-row seats that cost more than I wanted to admit. Nothing extravagant, just thoughtful, the kind of effort that shows someone you pay attention. I found Elena in our living room scrolling through Instagram stories of her friends' weekend adventures, laughing at inside jokes I'd never understand. "Hey, so I've got something special planned for our anniversary next Saturday," I said, sitting down beside her on the couch we'd picked out together. She looked up from her phone and her face fell like I just told her someone died. "Oh," she set the phone down slowly. "Oh babe, that's the same night as Bethany's birthday pregame. You know I can't miss that." I felt something drop in my stomach but tried to stay reasonable. "What if you asked them to move it to Friday or Sunday instead? I mean, it's our anniversary." She was already shaking her head before I finished talking. No, you don't understand. Bethany specifically planned it for Saturday because it's literally the only night everyone can make it. Jordan has that work conference starting Sunday. And Nicole's been so stressed with her new job. She really needs this. And Marcus just went through that terrible breakup, so he needs us right now too. I watched her face as she talked, getting more animated, warming up to her argument like she was building a legal case. "We all really need this night, Derek. The group hasn't been together properly in weeks." "But it's our anniversary," I said, and I hated how small my voice sounded. "This only happens once a year. You can see your friends literally any other time." That's when her whole demeanor changed. She sat back, crossed her arms, gave me this look like I was being completely unreasonable. "Love can wait, but friendship can't. They were here before you and they'll be here after." The words hit like a physical blow. They'll be here after. Not if something happens to us, not God forbid we break up, but a casual matter-of-fact after. Like our breakup was already scheduled somewhere between next month's group vacation and Nicole's engagement party. After everything we'd built together, after moving in and merging our lives, I was still just some temporary fixture that could be rescheduled around brunch plans. This wasn't the first time either. My graduate school commencement ceremony, she'd gone to Jordan's housewarming instead. My sister's wedding last month, she was too exhausted from a 3-day music festival with the squad to come as my +1. When my dad was in the hospital after his car accident, Elena couldn't visit because it conflicted with their weekly game night. But she expected me to drop everything when she needed something. 2 months ago, she called me at 2 a.m. to pick her up from some dive bar across town because Marcus was too drunk to drive. When I got there, she barely acknowledged me, just kept taking selfies with everyone while I stood there like an Uber driver. The worst part was how she talked about our relationship to them. I'd overheard her on the phone with Bethany saying how I was going through a jealous phase and needed to learn to share her time better. Like I was an insecure teenager instead of her partner who just wanted to feel like a priority sometimes. I tried talking to her about balance, about how relationships need nurturing too. She always promised to do better, then immediately made plans that excluded me. When I pointed out the pattern, she accused me of trying to isolate her from her friends. I spent that entire night lying awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, realizing I couldn't do this anymore. Couldn't keep begging someone to want to spend time with me. Couldn't keep coming in sixth place in my own relationship. The next morning, I started looking at apartments online. Found a decent one-bedroom 20 minutes away that I could afford on my own. The lease application sat in my email drafts for 2 days while I wrestled with the decision. Then I submitted it. Got approved within 48 hours, which felt like the universe telling me something. Spent the next week quietly moving my things whenever Elena was out, which was basically every evening. Box by box, my life disappeared from our shared space. Gaming setup, books, clothes, kitchen stuff I'd brought to the relationship. By the time she noticed something was wrong, I'd already moved 80% of my belongings. She came home Thursday night around midnight from some rooftop bar Marcus wanted to try and immediately saw that my gaming setup was gone from the living room. I heard her calling my name, voice getting higher with each room she checked. Derek? Derek, what the hell is happening? Where's all your stuff? I was in our bedroom, now just her bedroom, packing the last of my clothes when she found me. She stood in the doorway scanning the room like she was taking inventory of everything missing. Are you moving out? I handed her the letter I'd written the night before, tried to keep it simple and honest. That I needed to be with someone who actually wanted to prioritize our relationship. That I couldn't keep feeling like an afterthought in her life. That I hoped she'd find happiness, but I couldn't be part of this dynamic anymore. She read it once quickly, then again slower, her eyes widening. When she looked up at me, it was like she was seeing a stranger. You're seriously leaving me because I have friends? Because I won't ditch the people who have been there for me for years. I sat down on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted. Elena, it's not about you having friends. Then what is it about? She snapped, waving the letter. Because this whole thing reads like you want me to choose between you and everyone I care about. I want you to care about me too, I said quietly. I want to feel like I matter to you, like our relationship matters. She stared at me like I'd suggested something insane. Of course you matter, but I can't just abandon my friends every time you want attention. Something twisted in my chest. Elena, I asked you to spend one evening with me for our anniversary. One. And I explained why that night was important. More important than us, apparently. She threw her hands up. This is ridiculous, Derek. You're throwing away 2 years because you can't handle me having a social life. You knew who I was when we started dating. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized she genuinely didn't understand. In her mind, I was the problem. I was being unreasonable. I thought I knew who you were, I said, standing up and zipping my bag. I thought you were someone who wanted to build something with me. I do want to build something with you, but not if it means cutting off everyone else in my life. I'm not asking you to cut them off. I'm asking you to make space for me too. But she was already shaking her head, and I could see we were just going to keep going in circles. She saw this as me being controlling. I saw it as basic relationship maintenance. There was no middle ground we were both willing to find. After 20 more minutes of the same arguments on repeat, I held up my hands. I'm done, Elena. Done arguing or done with us? Both. The finality in my voice seemed to hit her then. Her posture changed, like she suddenly realized this wasn't just a fight we'd work through. She started following me around the apartment, listing all the things we'd shared, all the memories we'd made. But even then, every other sentence involved her friends. Remember when we went to that concert and ran into Bethany and Jordan? What about the time we cooked dinner for the whole squad? She couldn't even conceptualize experiences that were just about us. I told her I'd be back for the rest of my stuff over the weekend when she was at Bethany's pool party. Because of course there was a pool party. Left my key on the kitchen counter and walked out. The door closing behind me was the most liberating sound I'd heard in months. But leaving wasn't enough for her apparently. Saturday morning, I'm in my new place finally feeling like I can breathe when my phone starts going crazy. Elena calling nonstop, sending paragraph-long texts about how we need to talk this through like adults. When I didn't answer, she started having the squad message me too. Nicole sent this long text about how Elena is devastated and I'm breaking up the family. Marcus called me immature for ghosting instead of working things out. Jordan tried the reasonable approach, suggesting we all meet up to discuss things. Even Bethany, who I'd maybe had 10 real conversations with in 2 years, felt qualified to tell me I was making a mistake. The messages got more aggressive as the day went on. "You're going to regret this. Elena deserves better anyway." By Sunday evening, they were calling me emotionally abusive for abandoning her without warning, despite the letter I'd left explaining everything in detail. Then Monday night happened. I got home from work to find all 5 of them standing outside my new building. Elena was in front with the squad arranged behind her like some kind of intervention crew. She started talking as soon as she saw me, loud enough that neighbors were looking out their windows. "We need to settle this right now. You don't get to just disappear and ignore everyone. We're all adults here." I told them there was nothing to settle. I'd made my decision, explained my reasons, wasn't changing my mind. That's when Marcus stepped forward. "Dude, you're being a selfish asshole. Do you know how much you're hurting her? How much you're hurting all of us?" "All of us," I repeated. What exactly did I do to hurt people I barely know? Apparently by dating Elena, I'd become part of their family system, and leaving her was like abandoning all of them. The codependency was staggering. The whole thing was surreal. Nicole was crying. Jordan kept trying to mediate. Bethany was recording everything on her phone for evidence of what? I have no idea. Elena just stood there nodding like this was all perfectly normal behavior. I told them they had 30 seconds to leave my property before I called building security. When they didn't move, kept telling me to work things out, I walked inside and did exactly that. Security came out and asked them to leave. They did, but not before Elena shouted that this wasn't over. That was 4 weeks ago. The calls and texts finally stopped after about 10 days. I blocked everyone associated with that friend group, changed my number, made it clear through mutual acquaintances that any further contact would result in harassment charges. Building management knows to watch for them. Life moved on. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the Elena years. Turns out, when you're not spending every weekend being designated driver for someone else's social circle, you have time for your own relationships. Then 3 weeks after the breakup, I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, I know things ended badly between us, but I've been doing a lot of thinking. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime. I feel like we both said things we didn't mean."
Elena.
She'd gotten a new number or borrowed someone's phone. I didn't respond. The next day, another message. "I know I made mistakes. I was young and didn't understand how to balance everything. But I've been learning and growing, and I think we could try again if you're open to it." I showed the messages to my friend Chris, who just laughed. Apparently word had gotten back to Elena that I was doing well, that I seemed genuinely happier, that I'd started seeing someone new. Her timing was transparent. Right when her friend group was naturally evolving, people getting engaged, moving away for jobs, growing up and their priorities shifting, suddenly she wanted to revisit our relationship. Where was all this learning and growing when I was begging her to understand my feelings for 2 years? I didn't respond to the messages. Didn't owe her a coffee date or a chance to explain herself. I'd spent 2 years trying to get her to understand what I needed from a partnership, and she consistently chose to dismiss those needs. I wasn't interested in being her backup plan now that her primary social structure was changing. Last Tuesday, I was having dinner with Sarah, the woman I'd been seeing for a few weeks, at this Italian place downtown when I spotted them. Elena, Marcus, and Bethany at a corner table. Jordan and Nicole were notably absent. Elena saw me before I could suggest we leave. Our eyes met across the restaurant, and I could see her debating whether to come over. Sarah noticed me tense up, asked if everything was okay. I explained briefly. She squeezed my hand and said whatever I needed to do was fine. Elena didn't cause a scene, just gave me a small wave, then had an animated conversation with Marcus and Bethany. I figured that was the end of it. But as Sarah and I were leaving, Elena approached us near the exit. "Derek, hey, I don't want to interrupt your evening, but could I talk to you for just a minute?" Sarah said she'd wait by the car, handling the situation with more grace than Elena ever showed me. Elena looked different, tired or maybe just older. She started talking quickly like she'd rehearsed it. "I know you haven't been responding to my messages, and I understand why. I just wanted to say you were right about everything. About the balance, about priorities, about what a real relationship should look like. I see Jordan with his fiancée, and I watch how they support each other, and I realize I never did that with you." I told her I appreciated her saying that, but it didn't change anything between us. "I know," she said. "I'm not asking for another chance. I just needed you to know that I understand now. And I'm sorry, really genuinely sorry for how I treated you and how I reacted when you left." It was the first time she'd actually apologized without qualifiers or excuses. She looked over at Sarah in the parking lot and smiled sadly. "She seems lovely. I hope she appreciates what she has." That was it. She went back to her table. I went to my car. Sarah asked if I was okay, and I realized I actually was. The closure I thought I needed had arrived, and it didn't change anything. I'd already moved on. Through Chris, I heard the squad essentially dissolved. Jordan got engaged and fully committed to his new life, barely talks to the group anymore. Nicole moved to Seattle for a job opportunity and made new friends. Marcus and Bethany started dating, wanted space from the group dynamic that had complicated things for years. Elena's been trying to keep everyone together, planning events, sending nostalgic messages about the good times. But you can't force people to stay in a dynamic they've outgrown. She's learning what I tried to tell her months ago, that all relationships require mutual investment and understanding. When people feel like they can't be authentic or pursue their own growth, they leave. As for me and Sarah, things are progressing naturally. She has close friends but understands that relationships require one-on-one time to grow. Novel concept. We had dinner last Friday, just the two of us, and she didn't check her phone once. The fact that this seems normal and exciting rather than selfish tells me everything about the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationship patterns. I don't wish anything bad for Elena. I hope she figures out how to build connections that don't require sacrificing other important relationships. But I'm glad I had the courage to walk away when I did. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is refuse to accept being treated like an option. When someone shows you where you rank in their priorities, believe them the first time. I spent 2 years waiting for Elena to realize what she had. Now I'm with someone who already knows.